Something massive is happening deep in the Saudi desert. A project so secretive, so ambitious, it's changing the future before it's even finished. Billionaires are watching. Critics are warning. And what we found inside wasn't what we expected. This is not just a city, it's a global game changer. The $1 trillion dream in the middle of the desert. What if I told you there's a country right now spending over $1 trillion to build a city in the middle of a desert with no roads, no cars, and no pollution? It sounds fake, it sounds insane, but it's happening and we went there. Welcome to Neom, the most ambitious and controversial mega-project on the planet. Saudi Arabia is trying to create the city of the future from scratch. A place powered by AI, built for 10 million people, and designed to run on 100% clean energy. But this isn't just a city. This is a national bet, a $1 trillion gamble to shift an entire economy from oil to innovation. And today, we're taking you inside it. We flew across the globe, met up with a local guide named Salam, and drove deep into the desert into a zone that feels more like the set of a sci-fi movie than a construction site. But what we found wasn't just futuristic. It was unbelievable. Before we go further, what would you build if you had $1 trillion? Drop it in the comments below. Welcome to Neom, the city that shouldn't exist. You expect a few cranes, some scaffolding, maybe a glass tower or two. But what we saw was a machine city under construction. Hundreds of trucks were crawling across the sand. Giant robotic cranes moved like insects across the skyline. Entire mountain faces were being blasted open. The ground was shaking. Neom isn't just being built, it's being unleashed. This isn't some slow government project. Saudi Arabia has hired the world's top engineering firms, deployed thousands of workers, and is moving literal mountains to bring this thing to life. And standing in the middle of it, it hits you, this isn't just construction. This is transformation. But what are they building first? What's so important that it needed this much power, this much speed, and this much secrecy? That answer came when Salam pointed to the horizon and said, "You see that line? That's not just a wall. That's a city." Next up, the line, the crown jewel of Neom, and what's inside will blow your mind. 170 kilometers of glass, the line. As we moved deeper into the Neom zone, what we saw felt less like the future and more like a different planet. This isn't your typical city blueprint. It's the line, a 170-kilometer mirrored monument to ambition. No roads, no traffic, no noise. Just a perfectly straight vertical city powered by artificial intelligence designed to move 9 million people without a single car. Inside this glass and steel marvel, every layer serves a purpose. The top is all for humans, walkable parks, schools, homes, everything within a 5-minute stroll. Below that, a hidden world of robots, freight systems, and smart logistics humming like a machine. It's breathtaking, but also a little eerie. You start to wonder who really controls the city, the people, or the code? And this is only the beginning, because what lies beyond the line is even stranger. Up next, we take you to Trojena, a luxury ski resort being built in the middle of a desert. No, seriously. Meet Salam, a Bedouin with ancient roots. Amid the thundering construction of Neom, we meet a man untouched by the frenzy. Salam. With deep-set eyes and a weather-worn face, Salam isn't just a guide. He's a living archive of the desert's memory. A Bedouin by birth, Salam walks the sands as his ancestors did, reading the wind, tasting the air, and listening to stories whispered by dunes. As towering cranes rise in the distance, Salam's camel trot echoes centuries of tradition. He doesn't scoff at Neom, he observes. In his silence, there's a question. What happens when a civilization built on silence meets a future engineered for speed? Sharing dates by the fire, Salam recounts legends of the desert, tales of wandering spirits, vanished caravans, and hidden wells. But even he can't ignore what's rising around him. The desert is changing. His stories, once eternal, now feel like fragile threads clashing with the digital dreams of Saudi Arabia's trillion-dollar ambition. Is he a relic or a reminder of something we might lose forever? From camel meat to AI homes. One moment, you're sipping steaming tea beside a camel. The next, you're staring at architectural renderings that look ripped from a sci-fi blockbuster. That's the jarring paradox of Neom. In the morning, our host roasts camel meat over an open fire, his hospitality ancient, his manner gentle. And by afternoon, we're standing before digital blueprints of AI-powered homes, energy grids that think, and transportation that flies. It's more than a city, it's a simulation of the future. The contrasts are brutal and beautiful. A woman in a flowing abaya scrolls through real estate listings for smart homes that adjust temperature to your mood. A Bedouin child who's never left the desert plays with a drone like it's a bird from legend. Here, tradition is not erased, it's outpaced. This isn't evolution, it's hyperleap. And in every corner of Neom you feel the clash, age-old customs holding their breath as tomorrow steamrolls forward. Are we witnessing the world's boldest experiment or the first signs of cultural whiplash? Machines are tearing the desert apart. The silence of the Saudi desert used to be sacred, but now it's shattered. Neom is rising, and it's not rising quietly. Day and night, thousands of machines roar across the sands. Trucks the size of houses, cranes as tall as skyscrapers, drones buzzing like hornets, all tearing, digging, reshaping. The ground rumbles constantly. It's not just construction. It's a declaration of war against stillness. Salam, our Bedouin guide, watches with the quiet agony of someone witnessing an old friend being dismantled. These machines don't just move earth, they erase memory. Valleys once used for midnight prayer are now staging grounds for fiber optic grids. Ancient stone markers buried under concrete slabs. The sky, once filled with stars, is now pierced by artificial lights. This isn't just a building site, it's an open-heart surgery on the soul of the desert. The question isn't whether Neom will be built. It's whether anything ancient will survive its rise. And beneath the mechanical roar, you can almost hear the desert whispering, "Remember me." Trojena, snowboarding in the Saudi heat? Yes, you read that right. Skiing in the desert. Trojena isn't a joke or a trailer for a sci-fi film, it's real. And Saudi Arabia is building it. Imagine snowboarding down pristine slopes while a dry, 100-degree breeze rolls across the dunes. Trojena is part of Neom's vision, an alpine playground rising in a land known for its sun-scorched horizons. It's the ultimate contradiction, yet somehow it works. Artificial lakes, high-altitude chalets, and ice festivals will soon coexist with date palms and sandstorms. The sheer audacity of it is breathtaking. But it's also deeply symbolic. Trojena is Saudi Arabia saying, "We don't follow the rules of nature, we rewrite them." A royal family's fantasy made real through innovation, ambition, and unfathomable wealth. Still, behind the spectacle lies a subtle unease. What's the cost of bending nature to our will? For every slope carved, a ridge vanishes. For every artificial snowflake, a storm brews in the culture beneath. Trojena may be the future, but whose past is being buried under the snow? A ski resort in the desert? Genius or madness? Drop your one-word reaction in the comments. Oxagon, the floating factory of the future. Just off the Red Sea coast, something massive is taking shape, a futuristic city, floating on water. This is Oxagon, and it's like nothing the world has ever seen. Imagine a sci-fi fortress fused with a high-tech manufacturing hub, stretching across the sea like a mechanical leviathan. This isn't just for show. Saudi Arabia wants Oxagon to become the beating industrial heart of Neom. Everything here is engineered for efficiency. AI-run ports, autonomous factories, zero-carbon logistics. And it's not built for humans to stroll, it's built for machines to thrive. Massive ships will glide into docks run without workers. Goods will move underground via hyper-automated tunnels. It's innovation at its peak and eerily impersonal. The goal: to replace traditional manufacturing cities with something faster, cleaner, and more profitable. Oxagon is Saudi Arabia's message to the world. We don't just want to join global trade, we want to reinvent it. But beneath all the shiny renderings is one unnerving thought. Can a city function when it's designed more for robots than people? And if we erase human hands from our industries, what happens to the humans? A kingdom running out of oil? For over half a century, Saudi Arabia's power came from one thing: oil. It funded palaces, armies, mega projects, entire cities carved from sand. But now, that oil is starting to lose its crown. The world is shifting: electric cars, climate change, green energy revolutions. And Saudi Arabia knows it can't survive on crude forever. That's why Neom isn't just a luxury dream. It's a national pivot point, a desperate but ambitious attempt to future-proof a kingdom built on fossil fuel. By 2030, the world could look very different. Oil demand may shrink, revenues could drop, and unless Saudi Arabia evolves, the empire could crack. Enter Neom, a bet on biotech, tourism, AI, space tech, anything but oil. Billions are being funneled into innovation hubs, green energy, and ultra-luxury experiences. It's not just a city, it's a survival plan. But the pressure, it's immense. When you've known one way of life for generations, rewriting your entire identity in a decade is no easy task. Neom isn't just about buildings. It's about rewriting the kingdom's future before the oil runs dry. Evictions, protests, and secrets. Neom is dazzling on camera, but beyond the glossy renders and high-tech dreams lies a side few ever talk about. This land wasn't empty when construction began. It's home to communities with deep roots, passed down for generations. But as the city rises, some families have been asked to relocate quietly and sometimes suddenly. Stories have surfaced of homes cleared and areas sealed off with little explanation. Locals speak of offers they couldn't refuse and decisions made without their voice. One man, known online for his firm resistance, shared his story with the world. Not long after he was gone, the details remain unclear, and that uncertainty echoes louder than any official statement. Access to the area is now limited. Media coverage is tightly controlled. Conversations happen in hushed tones. And for those who once called this land home, the future feels distant, designed by others for others. Behind every mega project is a cost. And sometimes, that cost doesn't show up on a budget sheet. So while the world marvels at what's being built, the real question is, who's part of the story and who's been quietly written out? This was my land, a local story. Her name is Amina. She doesn't speak loudly. She doesn't need to. Her eyes do all the talking. "This was my land," she tells us, pointing to a stretch of flattened earth now surrounded by chain-link fences and construction signs. Her family lived here for generations before Neom was even a word. They didn't have property deeds, just stories, memories, and roots sunk deep into the desert floor. One day trucks came, then men with suits, then soldiers. There were no protests, no news coverage, just a silent sweep of everything familiar. Her home, gone. Her neighbors, scattered. "I watched them tear down the tent my grandfather built," she says. "They offered money. But how do you price history?" As luxury hotels and smart cities rise behind her, Amina stands on dust that still remembers. And it begs the question, can you build the future if you erase the past to do it? Her story isn't rare. It's just one of many that Neom's glossy brochures will never show. But if this city becomes a global symbol, we can't forget the stories buried underneath it. The Green City, real or PR stunt? Neom isn't just promising flying cars and vertical cities, it's selling itself as the greenest city ever built. Zero carbon emissions, 100% renewable energy. Even water recycling on a scale we've never seen before. It sounds incredible. But here's the catch, is it real or just a shiny PR stunt? Behind the glass renderings and eco taglines, the facts are murky. Massive concrete foundations are tearing through untouched desert. Ecosystems are being disrupted. The carbon footprint of constructing this megacity? Already massive. Yet the marketing never stops. Solar panels, wind farms, hydrogen plants. Sustainability buzzwords are everywhere but few actual results. Environmental experts are raising red flags. How can a city this big, built this fast in this location, really be sustainable? Or is green just a new way to sell luxury and power? Neom claims it's the prototype for future civilization. But critics say it's just greenwashed ambition wrapped in mirrored glass. The question isn't whether Neom talks the talk. It's whether it walks it without trampling the land it claims to protect. Do you think heritage should have a place in our high-tech future? Comment your thoughts. The money behind the mirage. A city like Neom doesn't rise from sand without serious firepower behind it. And Saudi Arabia has just that. The Public Investment Fund, PF, a war chest worth nearly $700 billion and growing. It's not just funding construction. It's buying influence, grabbing headlines, and rewriting the kingdom's future, $1 billion at a time. The PF isn't just a bank, it's a tool of global ambition. With investments in everything from Lucid Motors to Uber, it's positioning Saudi Arabia as a major player on Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and beyond. And now it's pouring unprecedented amounts into Neom, the ultimate portfolio centerpiece. Global investors are watching. Some are intrigued. Others are wary. For them, it's not just about profits, it's about politics. If Neom fails, billions vanish. If it succeeds, it rewrites what's possible in real estate, tourism, and tech. But what happens when a national identity, a crown prince's reputation, and the economic future of an entire region are all tied to one single mega project? This isn't just a city backed by money. It's a city built on pressure, pride, and power. And that makes the stakes higher than anyone's willing to admit. Saudi Arabia's global rebrand. Saudi Arabia isn't just building Neom, it's rebranding itself in real time. For decades, the kingdom was seen as an oil giant wrapped in mystery. Now, it's trying to become the global poster child for innovation, tourism, and next-gen living. Neom isn't a side project, it's the centerpiece of that transformation. Luxury tourism, futuristic tech, billion-dollar cities rising from the sand. It's all designed to shift how the world sees Saudi Arabia from a conservative powerhouse to a visionary global force. The kingdom wants more than visitors. It wants validation, respect, influence. And it's working. World leaders are paying attention. Celebrities are showing up. Billionaires are placing bets. But beneath the sparkle, critics warn that this glittering rebrand is just a glossy cover for deeper control, a kingdom still silencing dissent, but now doing it with smart mirrors and flying taxis. This is about more than buildings. It's about image and legacy. If Neom succeeds, Saudi Arabia won't just be known for oil, it'll be the future. But can you truly rebrand a country without changing what's at its core? Is this the future of humanity or a billion-dollar illusion? So after 14 chapters of wonder, ambition, controversy, and awe, it all comes down to this. Is Neom the future of civilization or the most expensive illusion ever sold? On one hand, it's bold, innovative, a masterpiece of design, tech, and vision. On the other, it's riddled with ethical dilemmas, environmental concerns, and cultural erasure. For every drone and data hub, there's a voice silenced. For every vertical garden, a displaced family. It's progress, but at what cost? The story of Neom isn't finished. It's still being written brick by brick, headline by headline. But one thing is clear, the world is watching. And what happens here will ripple far beyond the desert. Because Neom isn't just about Saudi Arabia. It's about the future we're willing to build and what we're willing to destroy to get there. So, what do you think? Drop a comment. Is this the start of a new world or a shimmering mirage?